This is Abel Gallegos, 36 years of age. He was convicted of kidnapping and murdering 28-year-old Cymone Duran.
This was a horrific crime.
Abel Gallegos and two others, Alonso, Quintana, and Rene Francisco Rosales, were found guilty of multiple counts for their role in a retaliation murder. According to the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office, earlier in 2018, Cymone Duran had identified Alonso Quintana in an attempted murder investigation in Adams County. Due to this, she then became a target of this gang of 3 criminals. On November 5, 2018, Duran was lured, kidnapped, and shot 10 times as she begged for her life. She was then killed and her body was set on fire. She was first contacted by Abel Gallegos on social media. She then met him and Rosales at a house in Denver. After a little while, the 3 of them left the house together. Rosales went home soon after they left. Gallegos took Miss Duran to a parking lot at West Colfax and Kipling, where he had pre-planned and arranged to meet with Quintana. Miss Duran was assaulted by Quintana and Gallegos and imprisoned in the back seat of a car. They then drove Duran to Golden, where they shot her 10 times and then poured gasoline on her body and set it on fire. Her body was then found burning in a dumpster by the authorities. The 3 of them were arrested by the authorities.
But I'm going to impose the maximum sentence just because you deserve it.
Abel Gallegos was sentenced to life in prison plus 163 years. He was convicted of multiple charges including first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, second-degree kidnapping, retaliation against a witness, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with evidence. Gallegos was sentenced in the aggravated range because he was on federal probation at the time of the offense.
I am struck by the casualness in which it was committed, the absolute disregard for human life.
During his trial, the judge Philip McNulty was super disgusted at the casualness of the crime and appalled by the disregard of human life. He said that Miss Duran's murder was very disturbing for him as she had to pay a huge price. Standing up for the truth and doing the right thing had cost her her life. Gallegos' friends and family were crying in the courtroom during the trial. Judge McNulty scolded them at their behavior. Looking at Gallegos' attitude during the trial, the judge knew that there were no regrets from the Gallegos side. He did not show any remorse at his actions. Abel Gallegos was sentenced to the maximum possible sentence for all of his 9 charges, including lifetime imprisonment without the possibility of parole for the first-degree murder. The total sentences for his others added up to another 163 years in prison. This is Ricky Hand, and he was sentenced for being involved in a series of robberies in Springfield, Ohio. This 46-year-old was part of a dangerous gang and was convicted for a series of armed robberies which added up to almost 30 in total. According to the court records, Ricky faced 30 charges of breaking and entering, safecracking, aggravated robbery, abduction, and attempted safecracking. He had previously been in prison before. He pleaded guilty in robbery cases in October 2011 and was sentenced to 4 years in prison for the crimes. He was on parole for less than 6 months before he started his next series of crime sprees. He was arrested again and was going through his trial. During his trial in the courtroom, he pleaded guilty to 7 charges. He was cooperative during the investigation and even admitted to some of the 14 business break-ins and robberies he had committed. He told about his drug abuse and admitted that he needed help with it. He was hoping that his imprisonment would be reduced, but then the judge gave his final verdict. Ricky Hand was sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Did you just give me 40 years, sir? Yes.
When he heard that, he got really angry and started behaving inappropriately. He yelled and questioned the judge if he was for real. Hand could just not accept that he was sentenced to 40 years of imprisonment.
You just gave me 40 years. Well, guess what? Sir, don't say so.
To everyone's utmost astonishment, he pulled out bottles of his own excrement and urine from his arm sling and threw it at the members of the courtroom. He was immediately restrained by the officials of the courtroom. Later on, in Clark County Sheriff's Office, he admitted that he had been hiding several bottles of his urine and feces on his body. As a result of his courtroom antics, he then faced an extra 5 counts of harassment with bodily substances. The targets were his attorney and 4 of the deputies. Due to his disgraceful behavior in court, he had to face extra charges along with 40 years life imprisonment. This is Brice Rhodes, who was a local rapper, but then ended up being the city's most notorious criminal in recent years.
It came during a pretrial hearing for the accused triple murderer. Rhodes was arguing that detectives are framing him for the May 2016 murders of Larry Ordway and Maurice Gordon.
In 2016, he was convicted for the murder of Larry Ordway, 14, and Maurice Gordon, 16. These two brothers were last seen alive on May 21, 2016, in their neighborhood, leaving the place with Brice Rhodes. In the early days, he was hovering below the radar with common charges including domestic violence and making inappropriate rap videos featuring friends, waving guns, and drug dealing. But it wasn't long until things started taking a much more serious turn. Ordway and Gordon were two brothers who looked up to Rhodes. They were also featured in some of his videos. On that fateful day, the brothers were in a car with Rhodes when they spotted Christopher Jones, a black man in his 40s. According to the police, Rhodes jumped out of the car and shot Jones in the street. This terrified the teen brothers badly, and they got scared of Rhodes. Rhodes began to fear that the brothers would tell the police, so in order to remove any evidence of the crime, he killed the brothers. Their bodies were found a day later in the backyard of an abandoned house. They had been beaten and stabbed to death. Their killers attempted to burn their bodies as well. The detectives found evidence which led to the arrest of Brice Rhodes. He was the main suspect immediately after the bodies were found.
It came during a pretrial hearing for the accused triple murderer.
After his arrest, he was charged for the double murder of the brothers, murder of 40-year-old Christopher Jones, and also for tampering with the evidence. Throughout his trials, his behavior towards the officials was very violent and aggressive.
Nice cheap shot.
You a coward.
Nice cheap
You a
shot.
coward. I'm a
He shouted and yelled and also spat at his attorney, Brendan McLeod, because McLeod wanted to withdraw from the case. He attacked a fellow inmate and also threatened to kill him. Due to his erratic behavior, the deputies took some precautions during his next hearing, and he was strapped by his wrists and ankles in a chair, and his mouth was covered with a spit mask.
Your job is to do your job, not to worry about me. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
I worry about me. You worry about himself.
This made him so angry that he repeatedly threatened to find and kill the judge Amber Wolf and her family. After that, he was also charged for blowing kisses to the victim's mother in November 18 and saying that he used to date her. Since his arrest, Rhodes has had additional charges filed for throwing urine on a corrections officer from his cell, threatening to kill another officer at the jail, threatening to kill a judge and her family during a court appearance, and for incidents involving other inmates. Rhodes's death penalty case remains pending in Cunningham's court. Let's pray that justice be served and the monster gets punished for his heinous acts soon. This is Darrell Edward Brooks, a 40-year-old man who was convicted on 26 October 2022 for killing 6 people and injuring dozens of others after he drove his car in a Christmas parade in Waukesha on 21st November 2021.
At no point in this video do I hear the horn honking.
One police officer tried to stop the SUV by banging on the hood, and another fired his gun. Because of his reckless driving, he reached speeds of over 30 miles per hour. According to the prosecution, he did that on purpose, intentionally, and while he was doing that, he had no emotions on his face. After he was arrested, he decided to represent himself in court. Why did Brooks intentionally kill so many people? The police chief said that they suspect that he was involved in a domestic disturbance, which he left just minutes before the police arrived. He then went on an intentional rampage, trying to strike and hurt as many people as possible. His behavior throughout the trial was very inappropriate.
Question, and under 906.11, I will declare the cross-examination closed. Thank you, we're in recess, 1 hour.
He was belligerent and disruptive at the trial and kept on arguing. He was very frustrated and also irritated the judge, Jennifer Doro, by having a stare down with her, which was very disrespectful. Brooke was at times sent to a separate room where he could take part through a monitor and was muted unless it was his turn to speak. On 16th November 2022, the Waukesha County Judge, Jennifer Doro, gave him 6 life sentences for the 6 people he killed, including 700 additional years in prison. Thuggery is a social issue that has been tormenting communities for generations. It is a problem that is characterized using violence, intimidation, and other forms of criminal behaviors to achieve one's goals. Throughout history, criminals have been known to use violence and intimidation to achieve their goals, and they have no regard for the law or the well-being of others. Their actions have a ripple effect on society, creating fear and mistrust among the people. This can lead to a breakdown of social order and a decrease in overall quality of life for everyone. In conclusion, the punishment of such criminals is an important aspect of maintaining law and order, promoting justice, and ensuring the safety of society. With that, we come to the end of today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to join the party.